What do you think are some things that the so-called black people or our people we could do? I know proclaiming nationality, but how do we get them to understand the importance of it?
In my opinion, we got to stop casting pearls to swine. It gets to a point that you or I, you can give somebody a book, but you can't make them read, You can urge somebody in the right way. However, if they're transfixed on the wrong, you got to let them go through that instead of always trying to do that. Because one thing about Moors, especially in the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Divine National Movement, which is the organ back to the old Moorish Empire, we're not here to convert anybody.
Therefore,
because we have a religious body because we're a nation and a people. And so our religion, let's say, is Islamism. But what that really means to me is love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, and equality.
therefore.
Which is the basis of everything. And when you look at all these other religions, none of them are based in love. Love is not their first principle.
On behalf of Akuno Senko for Bay, you know what I'm saying? Jay, where you at? We're trying to help our people elevate. Hope, H-O-P-E. We're giving them hope. We doing what we gotta do, Every day, one step at a time, man. We gonna make it happen. Helping our people elevate. Yeah. Sometimes I practice focus, thought, and meditate. I'm trying to come with other ways to help our people elevate. And seeking knowledge make me levitate. The lifted mental state is what results from how we orchestrate. This for the family's sake. Let's self-reflect and self-evaluate. And every day, make sure the steps you take, you calculate. Receive a master's fate. I know I can't exist without the hate, but that's okay. I balance that with higher self today. Success is on this way, and after that, my flesh can pass away.
Okay, peace and love, family. I'm back with another one. I have a great, educated, talented. I have a special brother with us today. And brother, if you wouldn't mind, introduce yourself to the people. Tell them who you are and where you're from.
Peace, everybody. It's your boy Aseer, the Duke Aseer Ali. Been here for a while in the community, what they used to call the conscious community. Now, I don't even know what they're calling it now, but inshallah, been a part of the Moorish movement for over 20 years now. Raised my children in it, you know what I'm saying? And, just been out here striving to clear cobwebs where they exist in terms of, the Moorish paradigm, the greater Moorish diaspora, both here, and abroad. And have been striving just to, promote as much unity or camaraderie, between Moors, wherever they manifest from, because in the end, we all got, you know what I'm saying? So I've been on YouTube, like I said, for over 14 years now. I was doing a lot of outreach work back in New York before I moved out here. Yeah, man, I used to teach at different colleges, after school programs in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, as well as doing a lot of lectures, different colleges, community centers, you know what I'm saying, festivals, wherever consciousness existed, you know what I mean, prior to the internet era. I was definitely striving to be a part of that. And, been doing it ever since, inshallah.
Wow. So what drew you into the Moorish science?
To me, it was the most, inclusive out of all of the various schools of thought, you know what I mean? I first got knowledge of self, I would say, through the Nation of Gods and Earths, Peace to the Nation of Gods and Earths. And I remember reading they have something called the Asiatic calendar, and I remember reading it and then referring to Noble Ali. And I researched him and kind of like really didn't go in as much. And then there was an elder who had back then there was a lot of like so-called conscious bookstores, what they call black bookstores, before Jeff Bezos and the FBI tried to wipe them out. And he was a Moor, Bilal Muhammad, blessed dead. And he and his brothers used to dress up once a year in Moorish garb and ride horses through the hood, you know. And one day I went to his store and he had some books and I was looking through that and he told me to come through the next day and peep them. And then once I seen them, you know what I'm saying, in all their glory like that, I just went in, you know. And then from that point on, I really started researching Moors and the connection to America. Because back then, they was trying to make it like the Moors was like only in Europe. And that they were from Africa. And back then, believe it or not, they were trying to make it like the Moors was white. Not so much Aboriginal white, like in terms of, like we know now, in terms of status. They were making it like phenotype, like they was like all white Arabs and stuff. So, you know, once I started meeting Moors in the flesh and started going in, I remember I realized that there was a concerted effort to conceal the true history of the Moorish Empire and Moorish people, both here in America and abroad. And the way I knew was one day I got my first fez. I went back to go check my grandmother. And when I walked in with the fez on, she was like, "Oh, you a Moor now?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, "You know what this is?" She was like, "Yeah, I knew a lot of bays and ills coming up." You know what I'm saying? And I was like, "So if you knew that, then why you raised me Christian and all that?" You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's when I started to realize, like, oh, okay, so there's something more to this, you know what I mean? That they not really trying to let on. So me being an Aries, when I feel somebody trying to conceal something from me, I just go even harder, you know what I'm saying? And that just led me on a path to see the correlation between all of the various schools of indigenous American thought, whether it be the Nation of Islam, Nation of Gods and Herbs, you know what I'm saying? The Hebrew, like all of these types of groups. The Moorish Science Temple of America, Divine National Movement predated all of that. You know what I'm saying? Or at least with most of them was at least a contemporary, and then a forerunner to the schools of thought that exist now. You know what I'm saying? It's just that once the movement was fractured after the Prophet left, you had the influx of a lot of people from various, what you would call clandestine orders that went in to kind of subvert and change certain things and put certain things in and leave certain things out, you know what I'm saying? And I just wasn't with that. So that led me to be more mindful of how important, you know what I'm saying, this type of living history is, because as the prophet said, what our forefathers were then, we are today. So that's when I realized, like, oh, so there is no like limitation on how I can really see this, so long as I'm practicing the principles, you know what I'm saying? And within that, it showed me the unification of all of these different ancient peoples and how the division between them really just lies within our minds and how we were educated today. You know what I mean? Almost like a lot of people be like conscious set tripping, you know what I'm saying?
I see it every day.
Yeah, man, it's a lot of divide and conquer with that stuff. And ultimately that whole order out of chaos, you know, that's a whole, like I said, evidence of the clandestine nature of these pseudo-intelligence movements that have been working to keep us like sequestered, you know what I mean, while all of these dummy movements, not dummy meaning stupid, but like dummy meaning like decoy, keeping them out front. You know what I'm saying? When that's not really the move. Like they just doing that because like they would rather you be everything than a Moor. You know what I'm saying? Like they'll really pump you to be an American Indian, a Hebrew, a God, or whatever. But the minute you say you're a Moor or a Moorish American or subscribe to the Moorish paradigm, like you stop being any of that. You know what I mean? Like they literally, some people, not all, but some people in these different schools really take it like personal, like. So that's when I knew it was really something to this. You know what I'm saying?
It's like they feel what they don't know.
That's the thing. Like I think they do know, and I think that they've all made agreements to keep that knowledge. You know what I'm saying? To the back and like play it down. Kind of like with hip hop now. Like they'll put out like Sexy Red and you know what I'm saying, slut rap and all this type of stuff. But then real MCs, you know what I mean? Like real people that's actually really doing stuff, real musicians, real keepers of the craft, you'll never hear about them. You know what I'm saying? So that's exactly how the mainstream work. And that's also the evidence of the hidden hand that's perpetuating all of these schisms and downright concealment of the truth. You know what I mean? Which is we have a nationality, which is we were here before everybody else, which is the last greatest empire that ushered in what we consider the modern age, or what people refer to as the Millennial Kingdom, was and is the old Moorish Empire. And we are the inheritors of that. Whether we want to accept it or not, whether they want to believe it or not, whether they care or not. You know what I mean? The truth don't care who tells it. So that's why I stand with it. You know what I mean?
Truth is that it cannot be changed. It cannot be changed.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. It don't care who tell it. You know what I mean? Whereas the lie needs certain people to go along with it and rehearse it. You know what I mean? And foster it. Whereas, you know what I mean? The truth don't need no explanation. It is what it is.
Like you said, when you started digging into the history here, when you got to the Moorish information and then you started digging into the information, that's what I did. You know what I mean? Like you said, you're Aries, I'm an Aries as well. And I was like, that sounds like me, you know what I mean?
Islam.
You're more scholar, you know what I'm saying? But as far as like, that's the same route I took. Because I'm Creek, Cherokee, and Choctaw on my mother and father's side.
There you go.
So
there you go.
My title, Akuno, comes from my Yoruba chief, but I know I'm not from Nigeria. I know I'm not Yoruba. You know what I mean? Yoruba.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I started digging into my ancestors here. And that is more further proof that the Moors were here before Columbus.
That's right.
1491. I have a Barbary map of 1491, and it shows you the tribal names on this Barbary map of 1491. It's got quote unquote Indian names on it, Indian tribe names on it. You know what I'm saying? Showing
But why would they, if they was Indians, why would they call them barbarous nations? When Barbary or barbarous also is a reflection directly of the Moors, specifically, not the Arabs, not the Africans, and the fact that like me on my mother's side, that's Louisiana, so that's like Ouachita or Washita. Also,
I was gonna say the Yamasee.
Say again?
The Yamasee?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, I see that. And then on my father's side, I got Algonquin, I got Montaka, you know what I'm saying? Because they was more further up north. But then in the genealogy going further into that, I got further down in the family tree, we got evidence of us all the way down in Peru. You know what I'm saying? Ancient Peru. Then on my queen side, it's the same thing. Like Barbados, Panama, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But you gotta remember, like we was here when all of the continents was together. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like we was here with where we could walk from here to China. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like we could walk from here to what they call Gondwana, which we know is now old South America and all of that. Mm-hmm. So when we say we indigenous to the Americas, we really talking about like the original America when it was like the whole thing. Mm-hmm. and we would use the oceans like rivers. You know what I'm saying? And we would connect with each other and establish empires, kingdoms, and dominions way before there was countries, nations, and states. You know what I mean? So it's not like when we discovered this about ourselves as Moors, we stopped having that ancestry within us. You know, it's like they be talking to us like, once you declare your nationality, it's like all of that so-called American Indian, or which is a misnomer, but you know what I mean? All of that all of a sudden disappears. When we're really looking at that though, all of their writings, all of that is similar to the ancient, you know, what they call Berber Libyan script, or the Kufic, you know what I'm saying, which predates the religion of Islam even. So there's never been a time, what they say, time never was when man was not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If ever there was a time that time began, there surely be a time that time would end. Therefore, that right there is a circle in time that locks us into what they call ab antiquo, or time immemorial. So you really can't date where we came. Like I just did a class video the other day and show how they done found original man in North Carolina from the Perry family, and they traced the patrilineal line between him and father and son going back over 385,000 years. That's just between the father and the son line directly.
Right.
Then, you know, the Africans, the Pan-Africanists, they want us to always go back to Africa, and they keep talking to us about the first woman, Lucy, coming out of all of that. But when you really, however, when you go and you really look into what they're saying and you look up Lucy, that's a monkey. I mean, that's a hominid.
Yeah. Real talk, yeah.
That's a hominid. So again, that's another way that these Freemasons and these niggas be trying to troll us. You see what I'm saying? By trying to get us to support a theory or something that really brings us back to something inhuman. When you can just look at the Guadalupe woman, right? That is antithesis to that, that's been over here, that they actually have a human skeleton from. So we put that together with the patrilineal line of the original man that's already been here. That's almost 1 million years.
Yeah.
However, you know, they want to date us because due to the Indian Act, due to the fall of the old Moorish Empire, due to World War I, World War II, they needed to get our people away from being the true inheritors and land possessors of the land. So if they could get us to believe we was from somewhere else, the generation that came in through integration now was now taught all of this, going back to Africa, Pan-Africanism and all this other stuff. And then because they dishonored their mothers and forefathers, they are the ones that started to sell off their land. You see what I'm saying? To the same $5 Indians and these people, you did, that were now moving in, taking over, creating pidgin versions of the language, just like the so-called Yehudas did with that, because Yiddish is not an Afro-Asiatic language. It's not an Afro-Asiatic Semitic language. You see what I'm saying? So how are you people claiming to be something when the opposite really is the thing? Like, you couldn't speak the Hebrew like that. And again, Hebrew itself is not a nation. That's a language. That's a language group.
I try to tell brothers that, and they be like, no, because the Bible said. All right, bro.
Yeah, but in the same Bible, in Galatians, was it Roman? Peter said, if I tell a lie that brings people to the glory of God, how am I still labeled a sinner? So right there, he telling you, I lied about all this stuff. Because remember, Peter was the one that was killing all of these so-called Christians that didn't exist at the time of Yeshua. And when we really look at the whole Yeshua and all of that, like when we read the Circle 7 Quran and all of that, that's also allegorical to the divine nature within us. So we're really talking about the kingdom that exists within us, which is why the prophet said Allah exists in the heart. You know what I mean? However, they got us with stories and movies and books and stuff, thinking that these things are actual real people. Like I said in Galatians, I believe 4:22-24, it says that the whole story of Abraham and Abraham, Sarah, and Hagar is an allegory based upon the covenants of a people who would be split between two halves. One side of the family would be enslaved, the other side of the family would be free. Who does that sound like? That's us.
Right.
So if they own Bibles saying that the whole thing is an allegory, then how are we wrong for standing on business and saying, well, we understand the allegory to the point that this is about the covenant. And what they also hate about the covenant is that the Moors were the ones that kept it. We're the only ones on record that have been fighting Rome since the beginning.
Facts.
All the rest of these dudes bowed down to them. You dig? To the point that they had to restructure their whole empire to be able to get people into a new form of religion, a new form of slavery that they're now in charge of. People gotta remember the Roman Catholic Church was older than the so-called Jesus or Isus. You know what I'm saying? They just adopted that.
The Black Codes of 1724 or the Code of War. You know what I'm saying?
Come on, man.
It tells you
but who was exempted from that? The only people exempted from that was the Moors.
Mm-hmm.
You did? Because we was the one who still held sway and control over the land. And that's the whole thing. They want us to give up our birthright and put ourselves under a people who themselves have only been free for about 80 years. They just celebrated the birthday today of the oldest original woman in the country. She 116 years old, 117 some years old. She older than Africa. She older than the modern concept of what you call Africa is.
Right.
So if we're older than that, and again, if you find under the exotic map of the United States, you find a town of Morocco over here that's older than the kingdom of Morocco over there that was established during the same time that our status extraterritorially went dormant based upon the ascension of the Arabs in the kingdom on behalf of the French and the American legation, which at the same time here in the United States now, they started pumping the whole civil rights shit to us, which started as the Indian Act, which then they dubbed into the Civil Rights Act. Like with Jesse Jackson, the original Rainbow Coalition was all about the so-called Black American Indians at first. And then he came in, co-opted that, and turned it into a homosexual movement, which is what has been destroying our people and everything up until this day.
That's a fact, though. And that goes back to
what deal with that.
True.
Like the term African American itself is a patented term by a food company.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I did a class on it the other day. It's patented under a food company. One of the patent holders is a white dude named Charles Young. So when they literally make us food, you understand? This is how they get down with it. But again, Jesse Jackson was a Shriner. You see what I'm saying?
I've seen the photos with the family. I've seen the photos.
Come on now, all these bootleg niggas were Shriners. These are the traders. These are the ones that sold us out.
And
but everybody want to tear down the Confederate statues. No, tear down the statues of these niggas. Because they still here, still lying. Al Sharpton was an FBI informant who parlayed all of that, went through all of that stuff, and now he just a pundit on CNN. Like, come on, man, you did all of that for this?
And see, with Sharpton, he's come here to Tulsa before when we lost a brother, Terrence Crutcher. And I know he an agent. I know him, Jesse Jackson. I mean, all of them are agents. And like you said, you know what I mean, we need to cut them off. You know,
all of them. But they'll bring them around. You'll see them at parties with Puffy and all of the so-called celebrities, because the celebrity class is the fake nobility that they've put over the original people. To get us to get into idol worship and to market this fake advance, societal advance that really don't exist like that with them.
I tell people this the Matrix. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Or worse, it's one of the lower rungs of hell that is self-inflicted, because hell is really the lower self.
Yeah, facts.
You know, and the war is really between Horus and Set, you know what I mean? Between God, so-called Yeshua, and the devil, and Batman and the Joker. It's all the same. It's all the same thing. It's happening within us. What we choose to consolidate around and give our energy to. There's an old Moorish saying that says, "Man is the fool for the divinity he worships." You know what I'm saying? So whatever you give your energy to in a worship aspect is feeding on you. You see, that's why when you be seeing certain Moors turn even Nobuju Ali into a mystery god, like that's not doing it either. He never said to worship him.
Mm-hmm.
He said imitate me. You see what I'm saying? He never said worship me. He never said put me above everybody. Like, no, he said put me out front.
And also
So that way you know that exactly. That way you know that you're coming. And what name you coming in.
Mm-hmm.
However, they want us to constantly, like I said, want us to go and follow what the Pale Arab religion of that is, and we predate them. That's why the Moorish Empire, at the expanse that happened in what they call the continent of Africa, we went left. We went all the way up into Europa, West Africa, and all of that. Mm-hmm. And we left the desert and all of that to them, to the Pale Arabs, who themselves was also half Roman. You know what I'm saying?
And that's how they had their ties.
Exactly. That's why the so-called Arab slave trade was so heavy after the fall of the empire, and why they went into castrating all of the Moors that they would capture in the continent of Africa and all that. Why they were so hard on the Abyssinian Christians and all of them like that. Because you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because that was them. That was a political infighting with them. Like, people don't understand. Like, the Roman state was founded by the so-called Ethiopians, who went through their own civil war when they moved the original capital from Liabella and then moved it up to Axum. And then from Axum, they then moved up into what they call Sevilla. And then from Sevilla, moved up into Italy and all of that, and set up what eventually became the Roman state, to then do away with a fight against the original people or Moors that was already there. The ones they were calling the Levantines and the Etruscans and them type of people, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then pushed them out and then started their whole amalgamation tip. You dig? And they've been practicing that ever since. That's why we've always been at war with them.
What do you think are some things that the so-called black people or our people we could do? I know proclaiming nationality, mm-hmm. but how do we get them to understand the importance of it?
In my opinion, we got to stop casting pearls to swine. It gets to a point that you or I, you can give somebody a book, but you can't make them read, You can urge somebody in the right way. However, if they're transfixed on the wrong, you got to let them go through that instead of always trying to do that. Because one thing about Moors, especially in the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Divine National Movement, which is the organ back to the old Moorish Empire, mm-hmm. We're not here to convert anybody.
Therefore,
because we have a religious body because we're a nation and a people. And so our religion, let's say, is Islamism. But what that really means to me is love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, and equality.
Therefore, mm-hmm.
which is the basis of everything. And when you look at all these other religions, none of them are based in love. Love is not their first principle. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Whatever God they worship in is their first principle. So that automatically takes us out of the world understanding of what world religion is. Like Buddha wasn't teaching love. Mm-hmm. Buddha was teaching enlightenment. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And the world was suffering. You dig? What's his name? Muhammad was teaching, peace be upon him, the one over there, not the fake one, but the other one. He was teaching submission. You know what I mean? Yeshua, what they say of him in the name of Jesus now, he's teaching forgiveness, per se, right? Who's the other one? Then when you get into the man-made Caucasian religions like Seventh-day Adventists, Mormonism, all that stuff, all that's Freemasonry. You know what I'm saying? That ain't got nothing to do with love. That ain't got nothing to do with that. That's all about control. So when it comes to moral science, when it said that the first principle is love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, and equality, like who don't want that?
And then also, just because I'm listening to you, but in my head, I'm thinking all those religions promote that patriarchal society.
Right,
we are
to
taught,
an aspect. However,
go ahead. I was just gonna say we honor our mothers. We are taught to uplift our women.
Yes. See, that's where me personally now, I'm agreeing with that to an extent. Mm-hmm. It's just that you can't have a mother without a father.
Right.
And when you get into the whole idea of the matriarchy as they're proposing it to us today, mm-hmm. they want to make it seem like the old Moors was like worshiping females, and the females was telling the Moors the Moorish males what to do and all of that. That's not how it worked.
Right.
That's not how it worked at all. And when you talk about matriarchies, the issue with that is that leads to another form of idol worship. Mm-hmm. Because the matriarchies, that's when the so-called goddesses was dealing. That's when they was worshiping, like one of the predated deities of Allah was Alat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Who was also Inanna, who was also Isis Urania, who was also Semiramis, who was also Tiamat. Thank you, David. Who was also Tiamat. And these goddesses, right, for lack of a better word, were evil. Mm-hmm. There's a book called The Sibyls that a lot of the black feminists and black witches and stuff, they like to read and talk about how great it was when the goddesses was running everything, and then the patriarchy came and destroyed it. But the patriarchy had to come and get rid of that because these women were sacrificing everything for their own glory, sacrificing their children. You understand what I'm saying? Creating political infighting, inbreeding, incest. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's why if the matriarchy was such a great thing as they've been promoting it to us in that way, then where's any evidence of it today? You don't have none.
Because I can see what you're saying, like when our sisters get mad, and I can see what you're saying.
You understand what I'm saying? It creates an ego thing, where now we got to worship her, and they want us to believe that these women were self-emulating and self-creating babies without men and stuff like that. Yet you've never seen that at any point in life, at any time in history. You've never seen it. There's no evidence that happened outside of these so-called ancient texts that was given to you by people a part of clandestine orders and stuff like that. So they want you to believe that to a certain extent, yet if you have not seen that, and if that was true, then why are women today spending millions of dollars on sperm? Why? That's like saying, like, when brothers is like, oh, well, get this and it'll grow your hair back and stuff like that. Like, have you seen Jeff Bezos? Jeff Bezos is the richest man in the world, and he is bald as an eagle. You mean to tell me if there was some sort of hair thing to grow your full head of hair back like that, you don't think he would have had it by now?
No, fact, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, we can't put the cart before the horse. Like, you and I have never seen a woman create a baby without a man. That's an outsider. You've never seen it. You can tell me about what happened in some ancient time, some ancient world, all of that. But until I physically see that, just like until I physically see somebody rise from the physical death, then all of that's allegory. Yeah. And if it wasn't for the patriarchy coming in and shutting all of that shit down, we wouldn't be here, because they would have sacrificed all of us. You had certain queens, especially in Europa, under the Drakenberg and in the Corbin, the Corbin houses, or what they call the Vlad Tepes and all that, where they had women that would get young maidens, sacrifice them, cut them from the slit to the throat, and then bleed them out into huge pools, and they would just bathe in their blood. You understand what I'm saying?
I know that.
Like that's what goddess worship was doing. That's what these people was doing. That's what the oracles of Delphi, they would have rituals allegedly where they would trout around in the forest, and they would sing and dance naked and all of that around the holy groves, and then they would go and get the man, and then they would sex the man almost to exhaustion, and then once he passed out, they would take the seed into them, and then once the seed was fertilized, or they felt fertilized, they would rip them apart. Like, that's what y'all want to worship? That's what y'all think. That's what y'all think hot in the streets. That's what matriarchy is about.
As
and
I'm
I'm not
listening
saying
to you,
every goddess was like that, but look at Cleopatra.
right.
Look at how they did her. We're actually closer to Cleopatra in time than she was to the pyramid building. You dig what I'm saying?
Time frame, yeah, history, yeah. That's what you're saying, yeah. Because that was
In a historical context, and she again was caught up between two dudes, right? And look what happened. Through her, both of the kingdoms was destroyed. But out of that came the Ptolemaic era, and in front of the Ptolemaic era came the first kings of Mauritania.
Mm.
See what I'm saying? Which then gave birth to what we would consider the Atlas and King Mori and Dido and all of that, which then led to Carthage and all of this type of stuff. But again, that's being propelled by the will of the man on behalf of the woman. So in that, 1 and 2 make 3.
Right.
You need one for the other. So this is not to say that the patriarchal aspect hasn't been co-opted either. But it is to say that think about it today. Imagine if the man was going. Imagine if Kamala Harris was president.
Yeah.
Imagine if Oprah was president.
We in trouble.
Imagine if Beyonce was president. What? We'd all be dead.
Yeah, we in trouble. Yeah, Megan Thee Stallion.
Megan Thee Stallion, right? Can you imagine?
We in trouble.
Come on, man. Let's stop with the cap, man. Let's stop acting like these women that have been put on this pedestal, whose egos have been fed to such an excess that they believe that they literally can create. They go out in the sun and create a solar galactic birth based upon what they read in some book. Right? But if you give them another book that says, look, this is what actually was happening with that. The mermaids was actually killing the sailors. You know what I'm saying? And eating them. The daughters of men that laid down with the angels created the abominations and the Nephilims and the giants and all that type of stuff. Y'all want to recreate that now? That's what y'all think is dope? No. See, you need men. Because men bring the logic and the reason into the circumstance, which is why they needed to take the patrilineal line and deject it and make it like all men are weak and all men are untrustworthy and all of that. No. Men are made to be men, to be upright, to stand for something, to know something. Because once you know something, you no longer believe it.
Yep.
So I know that I'm a Moor. I don't believe I'm a Moor.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I know my family. I know my mother. I don't believe my mother.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You did?
Mm-hmm. That's why I tell brothers all the time, like, not to go too deep off, but I just say belief is for children. As adults, you're supposed to know. You know what I'm saying? And like you tell them, like you've been teaching your children. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I've been in the science 8 years, maybe. But my daughter's 8 years, so I say about 8 years. So she'll be 9 this year.
Islam.
And I've been teaching her, and so just to see her and how smart and educated she is based on me teaching her, because her mother be like, "Oh, don't teach my baby that. Don't teach her that black stuff." You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. But see, right there, you're showing what I talked about in Galatians 4:22 and 24, where one of the parents is free, and the other one is a bondmaid or a slave. You see what I'm saying? Not to disrespect your baby moms, but I'm saying
I get what you're saying.
The mentality, and this is how they plagued us. That's what we're plagued by. That's the indemnity within our own family. It's happened to all of us. Because we, as Egypt firstborn, was cursed because we wouldn't go against our covenant to never lay down with Rome. So what Rome started to do was take control of the woman. The strongest soldier in white supremacy is the so-called black woman with no knowledge of self.
Right.
She will uphold that man's ideologically and agenda over it all. So long as her ego is fed, so long as she believes that the state, which has become her God, is going to give her the ability to change her appearance and do whatever. So if the richest men in the world, Bezos, Bill Gates, if they could not keep their own house, their own wives happy, you understand what I'm saying? To the point where they get divorced. 80% of the divorces in this country is all women. Because a man will deny his happiness to keep his home together. A woman will destroy her home just to get her happiness. You understand?
That's facts.
That's just how it is. And anybody saying different, you part of the problem.
They don't want to be held accountable.
You're using your ego. My ego has nothing to do with this. Yeah. I've been a victim of the same thing you've been a victim of.
No, yeah, real talk. Because I thought I was the only one dealing with it, and I end up joining like these dad groups on Facebook, and it's like, whoa. You know what I mean? They dealing with it worse than what I'm dealing with. You know what I'm saying? 10 times, 20 times. You know what I'm saying?
I've had my children kidnapped. I've had them. And I'm somebody who actually went court and won. And still, because the court know if I control her, I control the destiny of your nation. Mm-hmm. And because these women, they're not, look, these women, unfortunately, and I'm not talking about all of them. I'm not talking about the Moabitices. I'm not talking about the women with knowledge of self. The ones I'm talking about is the ones I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And they happen to be the ones, again, that they push out front. Mm-hmm. Because unfortunately, there's not enough females stepping up to counteract these ones I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. They'll let them rock. You'll have a sister with knowledge of self and all of that, but Sexy Red will come on and she'll be down with it. She'll like the song.
She dancing to it. Yeah.
So again,
or I've seen where sisters have knowledge and they'll rather share themselves on social media than share that information because they get more attention off sharing themselves.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, sister.
And they don't. And again, they'd rather get in witch circles and tarot card circles and learn how to, do all types of astrology and all of that to try to get the dude, try to do spells and all this shit. All of this fake goddess shit, which is all shit that was put into the game through devils like Helena Blavatsky. Through people like Albert Pike, people like Annie Besant, people like Manny P. Hall, people like even the other ones, the other Easter stars like Toni Morrison and Maya Angelou, and all of these ones that convinced the whole generation of people through one movie, like Waiting to Exhale or some shit, that all of their grandmothers was raped, that all of their grandfathers was like Mister. That all of them was molested and all of that. Like, this is what they believe. And then when you try to be actually a man and all of that, these are the same. My mother's generation, right? I'm 51. My mother's generation was the first generation to say, we're not going to do what we did. We're going to do the opposite. We're going to divorce these niggas. We're going to go out and earn. We're going to be this. We're going to be that. We're going to be independent. We're going to be this. But you want to be independent, but then you want child support. Like,
come on, bro. Come on, man.
You dig what I'm saying? Like,
talk to him.
You want to be independent, but then you want all of it. You want him to pay for everything. Like what?
And what? Even when they get it, they still call you needing help.
Yeah, because this is how they've been engendered. They have been mind controlled, brainwashed through ego. This is Eve eating the apple on behalf of the serpent and Adam having to pay the price. This is what the whole allegory was about.
Damn, I like
we live in it.
Damn, I like how you just broke that down.
We live in it. And they are perpetuating it and acting like it's a flex. And you're destroying humanity. You've destroyed the image of the original woman. She was the most pristine, the most desired, the most wanted, the most envied. And now you dejected her yourselves to the bottom of the rung, where you're a joke, where they just bring you out to twerk on stage and
you see the cowboy, the European.
Yeah, you saw that?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, sister. And
no integrity. Because integrity, honesty, self-respect, these are not virtues to women anymore. That's not virtues. This is the first time in history when there are more virginal men in history right now than any other time. You understand what that mean? That mean that there's a whole group of men that's not even trying to put their seed in these chicks until they all die off.
And that's crazy. And that's the sad part. And that's crazy.
And then at the same time, remember, I remember from the earliest time, niggas ain't shit, men ain't here, men ain't gonna do nothing, all the men is in jail, they not this, we need to move